Okay, welcome to the second part of our unit 10, which we started on security. Okay, so we are going to start from this as a second part, which is uh, security services. Okay, security services. Um, we have the aspect of confidentiality, which is part of security services. Confidentiality, we are saying availability of information to only authorized users. Okay, so when you are dealing with the security, there are certain aspects that are very important that you must put into consideration. And the first one is confidentiality, okay, where you are trying to keep this information confidential. Of course, as much as you are trying to put it confidential, it means this information should be available only to authorized users. Okay, then there's an aspect of integrity. Okay, so with this, what you are trying to imply is that the when you send data on the network, as you communicate, you send this information on the on the network. This information should be received as sent, exactly as sent. It shouldn't be modified in whatever way. Once that happens, then it means this information has lost its integrity. Okay, that is the aspect of integrity. Okay, so the received data is exactly as sent by the sender. Then it means this data should not be modified in any way by anybody. Okay, then we have an aspect of authentication. To authenticate is basically to ensure and confirm the identity of the user before revealing any information to the user. This is another very important security service aspect. Okay, so you see, whenever you go to the bank and you want to withdraw the money, you find that you are prompted to insert your card. Once you insert your card, there is um, uh, where now where you are required to supply the correct PIN. Okay, so that before you could have access to your money and so on. So that's an aspect of authentication. Okay, very important. It is a very important part of security services. Okay, then you have what we call non-repudiation. Non-repudiation. This prevents either the sender or receiver from denying a transmitted message. Imagine a situation whereby somebody sends information or message, you send message, and then it turns out that you feel you cannot you feel you send the information and later you change that you did not send. Okay, a very good example is when someone sends, you get your friend's number and then you send an SMS to somebody. Then it means that person, since you already have been contacted to that person cannot deny that they did not send this information because you already have the information about them. You already have the contact number. You have A and B. Okay, you A and B. Okay, so A want to send message to B. So what happens is that A already has the phone number to B. So if anybody else or someone else sends the message to B through A, this person cannot claim that they did not send this message anymore because they have already the contact. So now that's what we are calling non-repudiation. Okay, that's what you are calling non-repudiation. Then you have access control, prevention of unauthorized use of resource. Okay, this is a prevention of unauthorized use of control. You cannot access any information or any resource that you are not allowed to access. Okay, this is because that there are access controls put in place, okay, to prevent you from doing that. So access control ensures that unauthorized people are not allowed to access any information. Then you have availability, okay? Data and resources requested by authorized users are available to them when requested. So what you are saying is that as much as you protect this information, as much as you want to ensure that your data and information is secure from unauthorized users, this information should be available to authorized users. This information should be available to authorized users. Okay, that is an aspect of availability. So these are what we are calling security services. Now, what about security mechanisms? Okay, so a security mechanism deal with the prevention, detection, and recovery from a security attack. Okay, three things: prevention, detection, and recovery. You prevent, okay, but in case you fail to accurately prevent, okay, but an attack has been launched on your system, you should be able to detect that there has been an attack on your system or on your network. Now, if you are able to detect that this attack has taken place, you should be able to know the extent to which the damage has been done, what resource was accessed, when and by who, what tools were used, and so on. Now, when that happens, if you're able to do that, then it means there should be some aspect of recovery. You should be able to provide aspect of, should be able to recover that information. Okay, come up with measures to ensure that at least you're able to recover that from the attacks. So prevention involves mechanism to prevent the computer from being damaged. Okay, you ensure that you put in as much protection as possible so that the computer resource is not damaged. In the case of detection, okay, detection requires a mechanisms that allow detection of when, how, and by whom an attack occurred. Okay, you need to be able to identify who launched the attack, what resource did they compromise, what did they attack, what did they use, and so on. So it's very important that a security expert were able to do this. Then recovery involves a mechanism to stop the attack. You assess the damage done and then repair the damage whenever possible. Okay, that is recovery. So you have to ensure that this is done. You have to stop the attack. Then you assess the damage that has been done, and then you repair this damage if possible. Okay, let's look at cryptography. Cryptography is the science of writing information in hidden or secret form and is an ancient art. Okay, so you just try to use this science, which is an odd science, to write information in hidden form whereby you don't reveal it out there. Okay, you just ensure that only certain people with who are able to understand the algorithm can be able to uh, detect and decrypt this. So cryptography is necessary when communicating data over any network, particularly the internet. Okay, so it protects the data in transit and also the data stored on the disk. Okay, so this data is protected, the one that is moving. You are transmitting, okay, this data from one network to the other. Okay, so if this data is encrypted or is protected like that, if we have what we call the man in the middle or eavesdroppers and so forth, these can access, can intercept the communication, but they shouldn't be able to understand what is being communicated. Okay. So cryptography schemes, cryptography uses different schemes for the encryption of data. Okay, so these schemes constitute a pair of algorithms which create the encryption and decryption and the key. Okay, so we are talking about algorithms in place. Okay, and that these algorithms can be used for both encrypting as well as decrypting data. Then you have a key that can be shared among the communicating entities. So a key is a secret parameter, a string of bits for a specific message exchange content. So you provide this key depending on the message that you are trying to exchange at that particular time. Okay, that's a key. So the three cryptographic schemes are as follows. We have the secret key cryptography, public key cryptography, as well as hash functions. So these are the main three uh, schemes that you can find out there. Okay, so these are ways of protecting your data as you try to transmit this data across the network. Then you have a digital signature, a signature on a legal or financial or any other document, authenticate the document. If you have any document that you have and this is not signed, then it means it's not a valid document. It's not authentic until it is signed. That's a signature. So a photocopy of that document does not count. For computerized document, the condition that a signed document must order as follows. Okay, this is for a computing document. Okay, so a signed document should hold is that the receiver is able to verify the sender as claimed. Okay, the receiver should be able to verify the sender as claimed. Then the sender cannot later repudiate the content of the message. Remember in the previous section we said repudiation is a situation whereby when you send a message, you cannot later on claim that you are not the one that sent the message. Okay, so what you are saying, for a computerized document, the conditions that a signed document must hold. Okay, so these are the conditions. The receiver is able to verify the send as claimed. If A is the one who sent to B, B should be able to receive to say, okay, this message came from A. Okay, then the sender cannot later repudiate the content of the message. So the sender cannot later claim that they did not send the message to B. Okay, so then the receiver cannot concord the message itself. They cannot change the message itself. It should remain as sent. Okay, so digital signature scheme is a type of asymmetric cryptography. So digital signature use the public key cryptography, which employs two private key and public key. So it uses, when sending information across the network, it uses two keys. There's a public as well as the private. Okay, so the digital signature scheme typically consists of three algorithms. These are the three algorithms that are available for digital signature. Key generation algorithms, we have signing algorithms and the signature verifying algorithm. One algorithm or set of actions to generate the key, another one to sign the algorithm, and the third one is basically to verify the algorithm. Firewall. Firewall. So a firewall is a security mechanism to protect a local network from threats. Okay, from threat it may face while interacting with other networks on the internet. You and I are alive to the fact that on the internet there are a lot of security breaches that are launched on the internet, so it can easily be attacked and your network can easily be covered. So what is important is there are measures that you could put in place, and this one you are calling firewall is a security mechanism to protect the local network. Okay, so a firewall can be a hardware component or a software component or a combination of both. Okay, so this firewall, it can either be a hardware or software. We assume that this is a network and that is a network. So what happens is that the firewall sits in between two network segments such that it's able to verify the traffic that is coming from the external network to the internal network. So the firewall verifies if it meets the policies of the organization, then it is allowed. If not, then it is discarded. Same applies even here. If the traffic being sent to this network here meets the policy requirement, then it will be transmitted, else it will be rejected. So a firewall sits in between the two different network segments to filter the traffic that is coming from one network to the other. Types of firewall, what are the types? So all the data that enter a local network must come through a firewall. Okay, they must come through a firewall. So the type of firewall used varies from network to network. The types of firewall varies from network to network. So the following are the various types of firewall generally used. We have what we call the packet filter firewall, then circuit filter firewall, then proxy server or application level firewall. So in short, what we are saying, these are the three types of firewalls that we have. These are the three types of firewalls that we have. Okay. So firewall prevent computers in one network domain from communicating directly with other network domain. Like I showed you in the diagram, from one network you cannot communicate to the other except that all the traffic must pass through the firewall. Okay, all communication takes place through the firewall, which examines all incoming data before allowing it to enter the local network. So whenever this data comes here, it has to be examined to ensure that it meets the the network policy before it is allowed. If not, then it is rejected. Okay. Let's look at username and password. Username and password. So the combination of username and password is the most common method of user identification and authentication. The combination of username and password. When you have these two, the username and password, these are the method that is used to identify you and the authentication. So the system that uses password and password authentication first requires the user to have the username and the password. So such system always require that you have the username and the password. Okay, user identification and authentication. Identification is the process whereby a system recognizes a valid user identity. That is identification. Now, authentication is the process of verifying the claimed identity of a user. So you must be able to identify or to distinguish between identification as well as authentication. For example, a system uses a user password for identification. Okay, authentication is the system in which the system which verifies that the password is correct and thus the user is a valid user. That's authentication. Password ints. What are the ints when you want to create a password? What are the ints? Some actions that can be taken to make the password safer are as follows. This is what you can do to make your password safer. So it is good to change the password periodically. This decreases the chance of cracking the password. So at least you can be changing the password periodically for a period of 30 days or even 60 days, then you change your password. So that's a good hint of password. Then make a password complex, like you make cases, use numbers and special characters. So this decreases ability of automated attack by increasing possible character combination. Okay, so you have to use mixed cases, lower letters, lower upper letters, upper cases, and so forth as you come up with your password. So these are the ints. Then you have smart cards. A smart card is in a pocket-sized card with embedded integrated circuits which can process data. Okay, so with an embedded controller, smart cards have the unique ability to store large amount of data, carry out their own card functions such as encryption and decryption, authentication, and to interact intelligently with the small card reader. Okay, that's smart card. Okay, password int use long password so as to create a potentially high number of permutation and combination of characters used, making them difficult to break. So be cautious not to leave password lying around and don't share them with friends. So never share password with friends. Then other security measures that we have include intrusion detection system, virus protection software like the antiviruses. Then you have data and information backup. I've always emphasized on backup. Then you have secure socket layer and IP security or IPsec protocol. These are other security measures that you can put in place to ensure that your network segment is protected. We also have what we call biometric security or biometric technique. So biometric is the science and technology of measuring and statistically analyzing biological data. Okay, is the science and technology of measuring and statistically analyzing biological data. That is biological biometric technique. So in information technology, biometric refers to technologies that measures and analyze human trait for authentication. So you can analyze data using maybe your eyes or your fingertip and so on. So this can be used as a way to try and ensure that only you have access to a particular uh, resource or computing resource. So this can include the fingerprint, high retinas, and irises, voice patterns, facial patterns, and hand measurement for authentication purposes. So you can use all these to basically authenticate yourself to a particular computer resource. Okay. Now, policy. Security policy. So, a security policy is a formal statement that embodies the organization's overall security expectations, goals, and objectives with regard to the organization's technology, system, and information. That is security policy. So to be practical and implementable, policies must be defined by standards as well as guidelines and procedures. Okay, so this will guide you actually to ensure that the network policy that is set for your organization is practical. There must be clear standards, clear guidelines, clear procedures to guide, okay, to guide your team on how to adhere, on how to protect and ensure the safeguarding um, of these computer resources. It's very, very important that the security policy must take into consideration this. So the standards, guidelines, and procedures provide specific interpretation of policies and instruct users, customers, technicians, management, and others on how to implement the policies. Okay, so these standards, procedures, and guidelines are there to basically help in guiding how best you can implement um, the company policy. This is very important. Thank you so much for your time, and this brings us to the end of this second part, or part two of the lecture on security. Thank you.